Arizona Cardinals head coach Bruce Arians, to me, delivered one of the lines of all the NFL in 2014. After the Thursday night game against the St. Louis Rams, he sat there and said, "So everybody picked the Rams to beat us. I don't know why. They only win 8 games every year." That shit had me rolling then, and frankly, it still has me rolling now. With that said, however, I would like to make one critique of what Bruce Arians said. Coach Arians, you were wrong. Says, when does this Rams team win 8 games? I mean, here's the deal. Heading into 2013, I was high on this Rams team, and that didn't really pay off. So I was even higher on them in 2014, knowing that they had questions at the quarterback position, significant ones, whether Bradford was healthy or not. Frankly, it really didn't matter, and I got even higher on them. And this was the worst of the 3 years under Jeff Fisher for the St. Louis Rams. You go, 7-8-1, and then 7-9, and then this year 6-10. That's 20-27-1 in 3 years under Jeff Fisher with Les Snead as the general manager. It's not exactly good. It's not exactly good. It was another year, another up and down season, another Sam Bradford injury, and another season where the Rams promised more than what they ultimately delivered. And one of the major talking points about the St. Louis Rams organization over the past couple of years is just how splendid of a job they did trading away that second overall pick in 2012 to the Redskins as part of the RGIII package. And all the additional picks they got, all the additional players they got. Oh my God, this was awesome. Oh my God, this is like a modern day Herschel Walker trade or close to it. Oh my God, the Rams are going to be a force in the NFC West. And I got to say, honestly, now that you look at the trade with the Rams having utilized all the picks that have come from it, why are the Rams, frankly, getting so much praise? And why have I been even praising them, frankly? Here are the picks that they got, the players that they got directly as a result of the Robert Griffin III trade. Michael Brockers, Janoris Jenkins, Alec Ogletree, Stedman Bailey, Zach Stacy, and Greg Robinson. Those are the 6. Stacy got benched this year in the midpoint of the season for Trey Mason. Greg Robinson started off at guard, and then once he moved to tackle, it was kind of up and down. Stedman Bailey is a nice role player, but a role player at that. Janoris Jenkins is a solid player, but he's not a stud. Michael Brockers is an okay player, but I most certainly believe the Rams wish they would have been able to trade up in that 2012 draft to go up 2 or 3 slots to be able to get the far superior prospect in Fletcher Cox. The only real star that they've gotten out of that deal was Alec Ogletree, the outside linebacker from Georgia in 2013. That's it. That's the only real true impact player. So, yes, in theory, it's great that the Rams got all of those picks and were able to turn them into all these players. And people thought it was so awesome when Jeff Fisher sent out these 6 guys to be the captains in the game against the Redskins this year. All these additional picks, and they only finished with 2 more wins than the Redskins. All these additional picks, and it was yet another losing season. All these additional picks, and they found a way to finish 6-10. 6-10. I mean, now don't get me wrong, this team had moments, but that's always the thing about these Rams under Jeff Fisher. They show flashes and they show moments. They have those weeks where they beat Denver, they beat Seattle, they beat San Francisco, or you look at them and you're like, man, this team gets it. They're one of the best coach units in the league. But then they'll have other games, like the opening week of the season, that get steamrolled by Matt Castle and the Minnesota Vikings of all damn people, and they'll surrender 20-plus point leads in the second half to the Dallas Cowboys, and they'll do crap like that, and they're just a mediocre team, and a lot of us need to understand that, and I need to most certainly understand that, and I think that organization and that fan base for St. Louis needs to understand that things maybe aren't going as well as you might envision or might want to believe them to be, and as a result, maybe it is time to crank up the pressure on Les Snead and Jeff Fisher. Because you're 3 years in, you can argue things really haven't gone any better since when those guys got there, in particular Jeff Fisher. Why are we praising those guys so much, and why are they getting so much of a free pass? It's time for the free ride to end. These guys deserve some heat. They deserve some pressure. They've made bad decisions in the draft, namely not finding a quarterback that could potentially be ready to step in for Sam Bradford, having a foolish belief that Sam Bradford is a franchise guy. Look, I understand from a salary cap standpoint, he might have been handcuffed and had no other choice, but to roll with Bradford initially in 2014, but not to have another real qualified option available and ready was just ridiculous. And shame on the Rams. They're tying themselves to the failed quarterback of a previous regime. I've seen that be a disaster for my Chicago Bears. It is proving to be a disaster for the St. Louis Rams. When you look at this Rams team in 2014, their quarterbacks had 20 touchdowns total and 20 turnovers. That's not good. Your quarterbacks are turning the ball over as much as they're scoring, creating touchdowns. That's not a good thing. 7 games with 17 or fewer points. I don't care how good your defense is. If you can only score 17 points a game or less in pretty much half of your games, it's going to be hard to be any better than what the Rams are, which is a 6-10 football team. And you look at their defense, though. This unit that's supposed to have so much talent and guys like Robert Quinn and Chris Long, who missed most of the year, but still, you got Michael Brockers, you got first-round pick Aaron Donald, you got James Laurinaitis and Alec Ogletree. A lot of first-round picks on that side of the ball, in particular on the front 7. And this defense still found a way to allow 30-plus points in 7 games this year. So they had 7 games where they scored 17 or less, and they had 7 games where the defense allowed 30 or more. But then on the flip side, to being the Rams and who they are, they had 2 games towards the end of the season against the Raiders and then the Redskins where they pitched shutouts, back-to-back shutouts. Only team with more than one of them, I believe, in 2014, if I'm not mistaken, and they had them in back-to-back weeks. That's why it's so goddamn frustrating to watch the St. Louis Rams team, because it's a team that you would think in theory should be better. It's a team that you think should be able to compete better. This is a team that should be more consistent. This is a team that should be contending at least for a wild card spot, and they're not fucking doing any of it. Any of it. I mean, even when you look at this 2014 draft, you had Greg Robinson, you've got Aaron Donald, you've got LaMarcus Joyner, and you've got Trey Mason. You got some contributors there, especially in the name of Aaron Donald. I told all of y'all just how big of a damn stud this dude was going to be. I told you could take Jadeveon Clowney and shove him up your ass because Aaron Donald was a far superior prospect, as was Khalil Mack. Does anybody doubt me now after this 2014 season? Aaron Donald is a beast. It even took him a while to get consistent playing time, it seemed like. And once he did, man, he was something else. He almost ended up leading the team in sacks. I think he had 9 sacks as an interior edge rusher as a rookie. He's something. Trey Mason established himself to be the lead back. Joyner had his moments. Robinson was very up and down. This is probably, honestly, the best of the draft classes, in my opinion, for the St. Louis Rams. But at the same point in time, the team still went 6-10. All of those picks from the RG3 trade. And where are the Rams at? They're not in a whole lot of better position than the Redskins, except for having what seems to be, in theory, a much more talented roster. Well, it doesn't matter how much talent you have if you can't piece it together and you can't be more consistent. This is a defense that, with the front 4 that they had, especially once you add Aaron Donald to the mix, even with Chris Long going out, it shouldn't have mattered. You still have Quinn, you have Brockers, you have Aaron Donald. This is a front 4 that should dominate. This is a front 4 that should be impossible to contend with. This is a front 4 that should show more consistently, like they did in the Denver game, like they did when they pitched back-to-back shutouts. This is a defense that should be so much more. This Rams team needed an offense to be middle of the road and a defense to be top 5 or top 10. Instead, they kind of got a middle of the road defense and a well below middle of the road offense. So what are the needs for this team in 2015? What are the needs for this organization in order for them to fill them and be able to take that next step? First and foremost, frankly, there needs to be some pressure put on Les Snead and Jeff Fisher. The free passes need to be over. You can't coast on shit forever. It's time to start producing, or it's time to move the fuck on from these guys. The next thing they need to do is they need to realize once and for all that, hey, 5 years is enough. Bradford's shown you for different reasons, whatever you want to believe, no matter what, that he's not the guy. I don't give a damn if you think he's got talent or not. I don't think you give a damn or not if you think he's got all the tools. If the motherfucker can't stay on the field, if the motherfucker can't be counted on to play all 16 games, then he's not a franchise quarterback. This is the same stupidity you have to argue against when it comes to Cutler in Chicago. It's a similar situation in some degree. He's your highest paid player, and he doesn't play. And even when he does, he's far from special. This organization must move on from Sam Bradford. They must get a contingency plan, a more viable quarterback option in place, somebody that can make some plays, somebody that can be counted on to start all 16 games of the season. That's what they need. They have to have that. And then they need to get some help on offense. Like I said, you've got, 7 games where you score 17 or fewer points. They need more help. Their offensive line needs reinforcements. In the interior, and I'd argue at right tackle as well. You can sit there and talk about Jake Long all you want, but even if he comes back, okay, then maybe you flip him to the right side or Robinson to the right side. You still need help on the interior of that line. They need a big-time wide receiver. Brian Quick showed some moments, but then, of course, he got hurt. They need something on the outside. What they really need on the offensive side of the ball is a legitimate offensive coordinator that isn't a complete and total dumbass. You look at the offensive coordinator that they have right now. This idiot decides, among other things, that a great way to get Tavon Austin involved, a guy that's great in space, is to have him run the ball in between the tackles. How in the fuck does this guy have a job as an NFL offensive coordinator? How in the fuck can you not figure out a way to get a guy like Tavon Austin more involved in the offense? They need help all over the place on offense, well, obviously, most especially at quarterback. But they also need help on defense still. They could use some depth along that defensive line, in particular on the edge. They also could definitely use some help in the secondary. That secondary is not that great, and they showed that at times in 2014. This is a Rams team, again, I will emphasize, that does have talent in place. That if things could come together right at some point in time, this could be a force to be reckoned with. But I'm not going to sit there and toot their horn again for 2015 because 7-8-1, 7-9, 6-10 doesn't indicate having any more faith in you. If anything, they're heading in the wrong direction. All that talent and very little production to show for it.